This topic we're going to discuss is work ethic. I have Mark Gress, VP of Recruiting at Prodigy Sports with me, and he's going to touch upon work ethic and what that meant to him, both personally and professionally. So go ahead.
I think a lot of it comes down to, it can come down, upbringing, where you're from, but a lot of it is just kind of as you grow and evolve. So it doesn't need to be, your parents or whatever, but how you describe work ethic. And I think it's a little bit of the blue collar thing, right? I mean, you and I are, local to a town that's very blue collar, but you can still be a mix of those two, right? You can have your master's degree, you can have advanced degrees and still be blue collar. You can still put in the time and put in the energy. And I think it's important to find that balance, though, right? We have I've had people that are younger that worked with me over the years, and it's not about just being in the first in and the last to leave. Like that's part of it. Maybe that's a little bit old school, but it is about being productive. It is about being efficient, I think. But work ethic does have that kind of loaded connotation, right? Is it just the person who's putting in the most time? There's a lot to be said for that, right? We'll people in the industry will certainly think about the Mark brothers. Your Mark brothers are awake at 4 a.m. and they're at the gym and they're eating breakfast, and they probably don't finish their day until 10 or 11 o'clock every night, and that's a lot of time, a lot of energy, and they're great at what they do and they're well respected. But not everybody needs to be in the office at 4 a.m. Not everybody needs to be in the office till 10 p.m. But I think having a little bit of a blue collar kind of work ethic, grit, I think putting in the time and putting in the energy, I think is critical. And again, if I think about my time going back to when I was an intern, I think I landed a lot of my jobs through networking and referrals and people that would say Mark was X, Y, or Z. But I think a lot of that was built out of, I viewed myself as somebody who was always a high GPA guy, but not a high SAT guy, right? So I knew I had to put in the work, I had to put in the effort, and when that translated to the job front, maybe I wasn't always the best with a given technology, or I wasn't the smartest in, this number or that formula. But they knew if somebody needed a project assignment, somebody needed to get done, that I was probably the one to go to, because they knew it was going to be done. It was going to be done on time, if not ahead of schedule.
Right. All right. So I have a kind of a loaded question here. So people talk about what you were saying, go into work early, leave late. But what's another way that can be measured? So, I always think, and this is just my opinion, productivity, shows results. Yeah. Do you think that that's a new thing that is happening?
Yeah, it is, and certainly the shift of that and work-life balance. I mean, which is kind of a little bit of the same thing where, if I'm able to get more work done than some of my coworkers, but I'm working less time, or I'm not taking lunches, or I'm able to do a little bit from home, or something like that. Right. I think that productivity piece is different than what it was years ago, right? And I think about my parents, my grandparents, where it was again more of the kind of the grinded out blue collar thing, or the whole mentality being kind of not the uneducated, but before you got your advanced degrees and all of a sudden you were the one that was just grinding it out. And listen, we have a couple staff members right now that do grind it out, and that means they're going to persevere, they're going to put in the time until something is done. That's great, and I appreciate the people that will stay late or come in early, but that's not always necessary. If the work's getting done, I mean, there's a difference between FaceTime and so that your boss sees that you're in, and if you're punching in and out, it's great. Yeah. I mean, but it is a game, it becomes more of a game than it is when you were there. Did you actually get work done? I don't need to be trolling Amazon for a given deal. If I'm actually working during the course of the day and I'm only putting in 8 hours, that's fine, and nobody will ever question anything I do. And you know what? Sometimes I take calls during my hour-long commute in the office or my drive home, and if my boss knows I'm doing that, but I don't need to tell him I'm doing that.
It's not clocked in at.
Exactly.
So here's another question. Coming from the student, or an intern, if they're used to, let's say from 5-6 years old, going to school, and after going to school, doing that work, and if they played a sport or if they did extracurriculars, intramurals, anything, they would do that work, right? So that's their whole kind of work ethic at that point. It's structured, it's like that. Then they translate that into the real world. They go to college, they go all through their life, 22, 23 years old, they're about to graduate, maybe even older. How do they take that work ethic, because it is a work ethic, and translate that into the real world? This is a tough question.
Yeah, I don't know. That I think about that, and I think about that now that I have my own son. And you're right. It's kind of school. And he's only in first grade, but it's go to school. It's come home, do homework, which for a first grader we still do like 2 hours of homework, and then he still plays 1 or 2 sports, and so you're constantly doing something. You're involved in something, and you're working. I think that does translate well, and I think about. Well, it is transferable skills, right? So if you can translate how you performed in the classroom as a high school student, or how you performed in the off season as a football, basketball player. So you were going to the weight room, you were doing whatever you needed to do to prepare for the next season. That includes nutrition, whatever it is. I think you translate that by by explaining to a potential employer that those things. I think about athletes all the time, right? And athletes who will come to me or have come to me over the years, and they well, I was always playing my sport, or I didn't have time for an internship, or I wasn't allowed to get an internship, right? NCAA, whatever rules they may have.
Positive.
Right, and those are positives, right? I said, go on the interview and talk about everything you did in that off season, right? So in the off season, right, you lifted, you did running, and then you worked summer camps, right? So you were teaching, you were coaching young kids, maybe you helped at a registration. Like, think about, you almost boil it down to the minor details of, again, grade school, high school, and then college, and translate that to the real world, because those things still all do exist in the real world,
right,
just in different contexts. So I think it's about translating and verbalizing those transferable skills and experiences.
Yeah, so adding on top of that,
Yeah.
how do you keep challenging your work ethic? So I don't want to ask for tips and advice because I think everybody's different and their structure is different, their background's different. But how do you keep challenging those so your work ethic doesn't become complacent?
Yeah, and if it does become complacent, I think it is looking for new projects. It is looking for new work to be done. If you're employed, if you're an intern, or if you're a full-time employee somewhere, it's asking for new projects. It's exploring maybe what other departments are doing and try to see if you can volunteer or help in other departments. I remember when I'll reflect back to my time as an intern, not at the Eagles this time, when I was an intern at Drexel Athletics. Small athletic department, not Michigan, not Penn State, but I remember I was really in charge of the building, recreation, intramurals, and I had staffing. But as much as I could volunteer for basketball games, I can go to the marketing department, I could see what ticket sales was doing. Almost just because I didn't want to get bored. I knew I had to do my job, right? I knew that I had to do what I was being paid to do, but I needed to learn more. I needed to experience more. But also, what was a trickle down effect of that is that the hours moved much quicker. My days moved much faster. I met more people. So it had this kind of they saw me working hard, but I was also working differently, working smarter, which I know are phrases that are coming up now, working smarter. But that, you're right. I mean, complacency is a big challenge, and whether you're an intern or full-time employee, I mean, I think about employees at certain sports organizations here in town that have been there 20, 30 years. I hope they try new things. I hope they challenge themselves, because otherwise it just becomes a job. It doesn't become a career.
Right.
And there's a difference between those two.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, the job and the career is a great point because you don't want to become complacent. I think always finding that notion to challenge yourself and to have a little bit of fun. You know, when you do something new, it's the first time you might be doing it, or you might be, hey, I did this 4 years ago, I can help out here. And you can have fun with it because it's not your sole job, your sole responsibility. And you can smile and have, little creativity. So thank you very much, Mark, for just kind of enlightening us on, what you think for work ethic, and then the tips and advice you can give them.
Absolutely. Thank you.